As the War Widows New South Wales State and National President and a widow of war yourself, you've experienced both personal and professional challenges and accomplishments. You've also been quoted as paying it forward to many other women and widows. What has been your most profound achievement or impact within the veteran community?
I think for women and families, without a doubt, it would have to be the 2 honouring women dinners we did in Canberra just prior to COVID. The first one was part of the centenary of Anzac, and the second one was, because the first one was so successful, we had a second one, and we would have gone on and had more of them except for COVID. So that was where we had 500 people, the Governor-General. We honoured all our older women in the ceremony, and we had younger women there. It was a very moving ceremony, and I would like to think that will continue once COVID has well passed us. And for paying forward, I guess that's what it's another way of saying peer-to-peer, or as our motto says, we serve each other. And I think that's very important for the War Widows, and that's carried out in many things that the Guild does, with the Friendship Line and many others, that we're always caring for each other.
And since joining War Widows New South Wales, you have delivered many speeches calling for greater mental health resources before, during and after Defence service. Over the years, have you seen a change? Do you think the mental health support's improved?
Absolutely. It's taken a long time, and it will take a long time to reach right through to the families. Obviously, there's service for the veterans and serving men and women. But it doesn't quite, there is some services for families and children particularly, and I feel that it needs to go further. There needs to be a lot more support in that particular area as far as I'm concerned.
What do you believe still needs to be done to help relieve that mental load and pressures on the families and what they experience?
I understand we have to train people to go to war, but in doing that, they need to walk the families from day one, side by side. We need to link up those families as they join, their sons and daughters join up. So too do the families need to be linked up.
This year's Women's Day theme is Break the Bias. War Widows New South Wales has for 75 years highlighted the experiences and needs of women in a male-dominated sector. What bias have you had to manage as a woman and a leader within the defence and veteran sector?
It hasn't been easy, and many of those who've gone before me have done a wonderful job, and I hope I've made some contribution in that space in my time. I think it is, again, that's to understand that we too served. The strength comes from the Guild and how we look after each other. I think in doing that, it helps us, but it is a bias, and there's so few of us out there. When you sit round a table, there is a lot of men leading a lot of organisations, and you can be a lone voice sometimes, and it can be very lonely. But I think we overcome it in the end. Again, we sacrifice for our common good in our motto, and I think that's very important. The world is starting to realise that we families too made a sacrifice. We looked after them, and we looked after families when they were away. And then when they came home, different people, we looked after them to the rest of their lives. And that's a service that we've given the country. And it's only in more recent times, I believe, that families, you hear the minister say veterans and families. And so for people like myself and many before me, that is starting to acknowledge the families, that is the women in the families, and what we gave up just to support our veterans. Some women have given up their education, the time to go, because they've moved around with their husbands where they've gone. And so it's very important now to honour the families, and I think we're doing that in a much better way these days.